in business, there's no like great white buffalo. You never want to put all your eggs in one basket. And to be disappointed means that you were tied to the outcome and not tied to the process. And it's really hard to do this. And I still do this to this day. But to really be even keel and steady Eddie and like less emotional in business, you want to be tied to the process. Are you doing your absolute best every single step of the way? And just be confident that if you do that, the outcome will follow. The ideal outcome will follow.
When your leads are low and your sales are slow, who you gonna call? Brushbuster. Scaling up the game. Big projects, friend.
What's up, everybody? Michael Hickman here, founder of paintergrowth.com, and you're listening to a Brushbusters episode of the Painter Growth Podcast. Woo. I'm here with my friend and brand new Painter Growth coach, Mr. Chris Wolf. What's up, dude?
Dude, so excited to be here. Thank you. I've been listening to the Brushbusters. I gotta say, I'm excited to be on Brushbusters.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be fun. We got some wicked questions today. And yeah, thank you guys for submitting your questions. If you have a problem and you want to be featured on a Brushbusters episode, then I think if you go into the podcast in whatever app you're listening to, you can like submit your question there, or you can email it to us directly, support@paintergrowth.com. That's SUPPORT @paintergrowth.com. So, Mr. Chris,
I'm ready.
I'll read the first letter. I'll read the first letter, and then we'll go back and forth from there. Let's go here. Building a company from scratch. All right. Hi, coaches. Young gun here. Just starting my painting business at 22. Super excited, but also feeling a little lost. I'm looking for tips on how to grow this thing quickly. Marketing ideas, hiring the right crew, anything to get my name out there and land those jobs. What will you do in my place? Thanks. And that's Rich from BC. What comes to your mind?
Well, first off, Rich, congratulations. That's super exciting, right? You're taking a big step at a young age. You're trying something new. Man, I don't know about you, Mike. The first thing I think when I hear someone who's trying to start out and grow and get their name out there is, first and foremost, do good work, right? Because nothing else matters if you're not doing good work. The first customers that trust you, right? Those people, you got to make sure you do good because those people are going to start telling other people. And you have to start with a positive brand impression. That's the first thing I think. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, if you're not doing good work, then you're not going to get recommended, right? That's often one thing that I tell clients who come into Painter Growth and join our program is that we can't teach you to be a better painter. We can't teach you to care, smile, and shake hands. Give a firm handshake and do good quality work. Like that's number one, of course, but right. That's not always enough.
Oh, no. I mean, there's definitely stuff you got to do, but I just want to make sure we're like, keep the main thing, right? We're going to deliver quality paint jobs to every client. That's going to help get the name out there. For me,
but on that, before we jump into tactics, like delivering a quality paint job isn't necessarily about how smoothly the walls are when you're done, right? Because you're a service business. So how did you make the client feel? Were you communicative the entire time through the process? Did you ask for a review at the end? Did you explain the proposal and the scope of work really, really carefully? Did you stick to your estimate price? Did you basically give the client a really good customer experience in addition to a good quality paint job? Because the customer experience is also like painting isn't tough, right. But delivering a good customer experience while running a business by yourself can become a little tough.
Right. Yeah. Did you call and check in with them? Right. When stuff came up, did you let them know? Were you there at the beginning? Were you there at the end? Right. How did they feel? People always remember how you made them feel, right? Yep, absolutely. Yep. That's a great point.
So that's number one, right? Now, marketing ideas, hiring the right crew, getting his name out there. Honestly, especially when you're getting started and you don't have a lot of money coming in, it's really hard to beat good old door knocking.
That's what I was thinking too, man. You know, it's one of the, it's almost like a rite of passage, right? Like it's free. You can do it yourself. You can pay someone $20 an hour to go with you, right? You get to make a personal connection. I think that's something that's underrated in the digital age as we talk about marketing tactics here and in other episodes and whatnot. Everyone wants to do digital, right? But we're in a relational business, right? People buy for people they trust. You know, they want to like you if they want to hire you. And when you're knocking on doors and you're showing them that you're out there grinding and you're working hard and they get to meet you and shake your hand, that's actually a pretty great way to get things rolling, especially when you don't have any money to put into marketing.
Yeah. I think a lot of the time guys do feel like they're above going door to door, you know, say they've had a career and they're just starting their painting business now, or they're in it for a long time. It feels like it might be below them. But I just encourage you to look at like the dollar per hour rate that you end up generating from going door to door. Like if you actually think about it. So if your average job size is, you know, say it's small, say it's $3,000, and you get one estimate per hour and you land one out of 3 estimates, well, you're bringing in $1,000 an hour. So,
Right.
I mean, there's not a lot I wouldn't do for $1,000 an hour. I'll tell you that.
That's a whole other episode.
Yeah.
One other thing on marketing that I think it's really important for people to understand, especially early in the process, right? We got kind of the ground and pound, you know, the dirty door knocking, getting out there, shaking hands, kissing babies kind of thing. There's digital that everybody wants to do, but also special ops. And so what I mean by special ops, one-off events like home shows or county fairs or anything like that. I guarantee you there's contractors at the, you know, Labor Day festival in your town that are out there getting their name out, meeting customers.
Yeah. Yeah. I get asked a lot, like, what should I do? What should I promote? How should I set up my booth at a home show? And what's worked for me and what I've seen a lot of people do really successfully is do a giveaway, but don't just like give away a TV or an iPad. If you're going to go to a home show and spend the, you know, $500 for a booth, and then you need to, you know, get flyers made and you've got all these other stuff, give away something that will identify a client who is most likely to buy, who's already going to be a prospect already. So give something away to that extent. Meaning if they're thinking about painting, then a discount or a free paint job.
Free power wash.
Free power wash for everyone.
Sure. Yeah, everyone who signs up from the home show, free power wash.
Yes. I mean, getting your foot in the door for sure. I was just thinking, like, how I did in the past was like give away like a $5,000 paint job to one person.
Nice.
Because a $5,000 paint job, your costs are $2,500, right? So it seems like a lot bigger number than it is. And then you're going to get a lot of people who want to book an estimate. The only way to enter is if you book and then have an estimate attended by the end of the month or whatever you say. And so you do like 30, 40, 50 estimates from that. One person is going to get a $5,000 paint job, which costs $2,500. So if you get 50 estimates for $2,500, that's $50 an estimate. It's pretty good ROI.
Yep. Well, and the other thing too, I mean, whatever you do with your booth, whatever you do in your door knocking, being out there, like live your brand. Like, hey, I'm Chris with Chris's Painting Company, and I'm new, and I'm excited to be here, and this is what I'm doing, and this is who I am. Whether you're door knocking, or whether you're at the grocery store, or whether you're at a home show, like just letting people know, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm about, you know, and live it. Like if you're a first-time business owner or a new business owner, when people ask you, I'm a business owner. I run my own painting business.
Yep.
Right. Like that story that you tell and that you live, right? That gets that out there. And that's one of the things I like about home shows. And door knocking, people get to actually connect with you.
No, I was just thinking about this morning, actually. So Jesse, another one of our coaches, he asked one of his clients, he said, hey, are you like calling back your past estimates? And the guy's like, no. He's like, okay, I want you to pick up the phone right now and make 5 dials, call 5 of your past clients. And he did that. And within 10 minutes, he booked 2 jobs. So what I was kind of thinking of that is like, not everyone has a pile of outstanding estimates to call. Now, a lot of people do. And if you do, you should be like making dials every single day. But if I were starting my business from scratch, I would plan like every single day at 3:00, I would have an alarm on my phone and I would make 5 phone calls. Doesn't matter who those phone calls are to. You make 5 phone calls. Past customers, prospects, property managers, realtors, business owners, friends, like anyone, just make 5 calls and tell them that you have a painting business and you're looking for contracts. If you did 5 calls every single day, 200 days, a year, every business day, that's 1,000 calls.
Mm-hmm.
What are the chances you're going to get some work out of those calls?
Oh, it's 100% chance. Yep. People, you got to grind, right? You got to let people know this is what I'm doing. This is where I'm at. You got to put in that work so that, especially when you're getting started and you don't have 100 old estimates that you never found out about, right? And you have 3 estimates that you've done or 10 estimates. Yeah, you got to do the work every day. I love that. 5 calls a day. Like whatever you're doing for your marketing, whether it's door knocking or calls or whatever, it's like consistent every day is going to get your business where it needs to go. I see so many people are like, oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And then they freeze and they're like, oh, tomorrow. Oh, I have to do 100 calls tomorrow. Right. And then no one wants to do 100 calls. Right. So they're like, oh, I'll do 100 calls tomorrow. And it keeps getting pushed off. But what you're saying, right, is like take action every day, 5 days a week. And when you're doing, that's what I call the ground and pound, like just that unglamorous grunt work. When you're doing it every day, it lays the groundwork for actual success.
Yeah. Well, think about like how to get in shape. Do you go to the gym like one day for like 6 hours and then you lay on your ass for the next 2 weeks while you recover because you're too sore? Or do you go
Doritos?
Yeah. 45 minutes every day, consistently, don't miss. What's going to get you better results?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. I love that.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty good. There were some other follow-up questions like hiring the right crew and things like that, but I think that was probably pretty good for getting started. If you do those things, 5 calls a day.
Mike. One quick thing I'd say on getting started and how to hire people, right? When you're getting started, get clear on who you are, what you stand for, right? Like if you're trying to be the cheapest guy in town, then, I don't recommend that, but that's what you tell people, right? And that's what you sell, and those are the crews you find. If you're trying to deliver a quality experience, right? And you're not the cheapest, but you're delivering a quality experience. Like articulate that, put that in your vision, let people know that. And then when you're going to hire people, make sure if you're trying to deliver a high quality experience, make sure you're hiring people that also care about delivering a high quality experience. You want to have values alignment, to show your customers who you are, but also when you're in hiring. Just last bit. I have a million things to say to a new business owner. I'm sorry. I'll stop.
No, that's great. That's 100% accurate though too. You definitely don't want to be hiring just 2 feet in a heartbeat. Someone who comes on and says they have 5 years experience, so you put them on the brush. You want to know who you are, what you stand for, what your values are, what's important to you, and then hire based on those values. Write them down, document them.
Yeah, interview against them. Tell me about a time that you had a sticky situation where you weren't sure if you should tell the truth or not. Ask that in an interview, right? Or tell me about a time that you were you had to finish a project, you were taking pride in your work, but all these bad things happened and it was really, Anyways.
One question I used to like asking my painters was, tell me about the hardest thing you've ever done. And I had one guy, I asked him that and he's like, one time I had to stay for 2 hours of overtime. It's like, wow, tough life.
Yeah, the grit might not be there in that candidate.
Yeah, exactly. All right. You want to read our letter from Daniel?
Oh, yeah. I get to do this one?
You get to do this one.
All right. From firefighter to painter. Hey, coaches. My name is Daniel, and I recently transitioned from firefighting to run my own painting business. And through hard work, I've built it up to a point where I'm actually feeling pretty good. However, I am eager to take things to the next level. I'm just a little unsure on where to start. Here's where I need your brush busters magic. We got you, Daniel. We got you. I'm currently focusing a lot on residential projects, but landing more bids is being tough. Any tips for winning proposals? Commercial work seems like a natural next step. What can I do to get into that market? And how can I better prepare for the inevitable slow periods in the painting season? Ooh, these are good ones, Daniel. I'd love to hear your expert advice. Thanks in advance for the support. Daniel Lopez, Dallas, Texas. Woo, okay.
This is a big one.
Yeah, we're going to have to take this bit out here.
So first question, there's out of the 3 questions. The first one is, ready to grow my business, focusing on residential, but landing more bids is tough. Any tips for winning proposals? So the way that question is phrased, it sounds like the sales aspect of it is what we're going to focus on here.
Yeah, I mean, landing more bids is kind of like a marketing aspect, right? Like how many leads are you getting, but then winning the proposals is the sale. And really, Daniel, I think you should probably focus on landing more of the work that you have, right? So what are some tips to that, right? First thing that hits me off the bat, what process are you using? Do you know your process? Are you following your process, right? Because that's something everyone's like, oh yeah, I've got a process. Yeah. But if I come right along with you tomorrow on your next estimate with Mr. and Mrs. Johnson over in Eagle Creek, am I going to see you actually doing your whole process or not? Right? Because like the difference between someone who actually eats their vegetables and someone who says they eat their vegetables is going to be a lot different when you look at those final numbers. Like, are you calling ahead of time? Are you meeting with both homeowners? Are you presenting the price to both homeowners? Are you walking around the house with them? Right? There's all these steps to it. That's the first thing I would say, Danielle. Make sure you're tight on your process and actually following it.
So Daniel's a client of ours. And Daniel, would you be proud of your sales process if I came and rode along with you? Use that as a litmus test. Are you doing the setup call? Are you asking every question that we recommend? Are you doing the trial close? Are you making sure both decision makers are there? Are you using CRM to send out a text message reminder as soon as you book it?
Right. Are you taking notes on what's important to them and making sure that you circle back to it to let them know you're going to handle those things that are important to them?
Presenting on the spot, giving a detailed proposal, handling all of their questions, creating value, dress as a professional, asking for the job at the end of the estimate.
Yeah, it seems silly, right? It seems obvious, but 99% of the time when I'm talking to someone about close rate, they already know the things they're not doing. Right? Like if anyone listening is like, oh, I wish I was closing more, pause this episode, take 10 seconds and think like, am I actually doing everything I know I'm supposed to be doing?
Yeah. I had a message earlier this week from a client, maybe it was last week, from a client who went 0 for 6 on estimates, and he was feeling pretty down. And I just messaged him and said, "Hey, are you like tell me the process?" And what we found out really quickly is that he wasn't he was doing a lot of the things, but he wasn't doing all of the things. And in particular, he wasn't asking for the job at the time of presenting the price.
Oh no, just one of those. Here you go.
Yeah, here's the price. Okay, big gulps. Hey, see you later.
Call me never.
Yeah. And so I think that it's easy to overlook something that you might not feel is really important. Actually, not even that. I would say it's easy to not want to do the questions that are hard to ask.
That's what I was going to say. People, it's not that they don't want to do it, it's that it's uncomfortable. Right? It's uncomfortable to request to have both homeowners there. It's uncomfortable to ask someone to come walk around the house so you can show them what's wrong with their paint all over their house. Right? It's uncomfortable. Like, actually, I need a few minutes to ask you a couple more questions before we set up the appointment. Right? Like I think that's what people, it's not that they don't want to. They like the idea of doing it, but it's uncomfortable.
Do you know what's more uncomfortable?
Going 0 for 6? Or
Being
0 for
broke.
12? Yeah.
Being broke is more uncomfortable. So give me the option between asking the hard questions and being broke, and I'll pick asking the hard questions, 100 days in a row.
100 times out of 100.
Yeah, it's worth it. It is certainly uncomfortable. You get better at it. Certainly, the first couple times you ask for the job on the spot, you're gonna fumble with it. You're gonna drop your pen. You're gonna, say the wrong words or whatever. But like, everyone sucks.
Do you want the job and the paint, and maybe do you want the? That's okay. You gotta get it out.
And it sounds silly, but real talk, practicing some of these key phrases in the mirror actually help.
Or like with your partner, right? I can't tell you how many times my wife has like role played stuff with me.
Ooh.
Or like, I know. Well, hi, yeah. But I walked right into that.
Well, Harry Potter.
I meant in a sales context. Didn't mean to take this X-rated. I'm sorry, but just like someone you trust, right, or another person in your organization. That's usually what I recommend with like setup calls and things like that. Like, buddy up with someone in your organization. or someone else you know in the painting industry and practice doing setup calls together.
Yeah, another client in Blueprint or whatever.
Sure, we got a
Chris,
whole community.
if the price is within your budget and you're comfortable that we're going to do a good job, will you be ready to book in with us?
Well, I mean, yeah, if the price meets what I'm looking for, you guys seem pretty sharp. You're gonna meet my timeline. I like your process. It's as long as the price fits, that should be good. Yeah.
Perfect. And you have a budget in mind?
Oh, yep. We've been saving up. I got quotes a couple of years ago. So blah blah blah.
Perfect. And do the numbers, come back, build value on the price. Don't just like, I was gonna use another bad X-rated analogy, but don't just tell them the price without any warning. Build value on that price. Where does it come from? What does your prep process look like? What types of products are you using? How many quotes are you doing? What are your inclusions? What are your exclusions? What's your warranty? What's your guarantee? What's your insurance? What's your show them your business license. Show them that your team's bonded, right? What's the timeline? You're hitting their timeline, like all of this. And then does that all sound good? Did I miss anything? Do you trust that we do a good job? Are you comfortable with me? Comfortable with my company? You comfortable with my process? Great. Now to get all of this done, the cost of this project is $10,486. Now we take a 20% deposit to secure you in our schedule, which we said we can make your timeline. That's $2,012. How would you like to handle that?
Oh, you guys take credit card?
We sure do.
Boom.
Write them up.
Quick pro tip for anyone doing deposit payments: do a round number. Just like a little pet peeve of mine. Like, don't do 2012. Just do 2000. No one cares. It's fine.
I always liked. I guess we'll agree to disagree there. I always liked just doing the specific number. If people came with cash, like fine, but I have a really specific number price, and then exactly 20% of that to the penny.
No, for the price, yeah.
No, but then 20% of it for the deposit. If it came out to $2,001.04, that's my deposit.
That's part of finding your voice as a sales professional.
Yeah, everyone does that. I mean, yeah, you like your point, is fair. That's not an important detail, but just pick what you're going to do and stick with it.
Right. Be true to yourself.
Yep. We did 20%. Works for our bookkeeping. Do what you want to do. So the second question, commercial works. Commercial work seems like a natural next step. What steps can I take to position myself for success in that market? You want to tackle that first, Chris?
Yeah, don't. I'm sorry. Residential and commercial work are two completely different animals.
Let's talk commercial repaint. Let's go commercial repaint for this argument.
Sure. But still, I mean, even if you're like painting, a 4-story, 60-unit condo building, that's just going to be a different animal than painting a 2-story house that a single family lives in, right? So you can, and people do it, and you make money on it. I would just say, from my experience, maybe this isn't the answer you were looking for, Mike, but know what you're good at, know what you're trying to do, because residential, you finish a job, they pay you, right? Commercial, you finish a job, you could be 60, 90, 180 days before payment, right? It's a different cycle. It's a different decision makers in the sales process. So it can be done and you can do it, but I would say if you're a residential contractor, I would dip your toes in commercial. I wouldn't be saying, oh, I'm going to make a full pivot and do 50-50 right off the bat, because you got a lot to learn about how that goes. It's not just the paint anymore.
For sure. Yeah, it does get a little more complicated.
I mean, paint is paint, but the process gets more complicated.
Yeah, I mean, to go from a residential house painter to someone who also does commercial repaints, it's definitely a learning curve, but I would say it's one that is valuable to learn if your business is in the right spot. And by the right spot, I mean, can you cash flow the entire value of that job for 30 to 60 days? So
yeah, all the labor, all the materials.
So if it's a $20,000 job, can you cash flow, $12,000? Can you afford to be missing that for the next 60 days?
Yeah, and one thing too is like, do you have guys that perform at a high level? Because what's going to happen in a commercial project, nobody checks your work until the end. So, if you have a 4-story building that has however many units or whatever in it, no one's going to check to the end. And then you get to the end, you realize there's all these touch-ups. That's a nightmare scenario. Right.
Yeah.
So you make sure you have like crews that you trust, that do good work consistently, that you're ready to cash flow it. It can be a boon for your business. But the reason I reacted so strongly, Mike, I'm sorry if I had the wrong tone for what you wanted on this, but I just seen people trip themselves up really badly when they weren't ready for it, or they were getting into commercial for the wrong reasons because they got dollar signs in their eyes, not realizing that the margins are a lot lower typically, right? So, I want to be the devil's advocate, making sure people are doing sustainable things that are going to grow their business in the long term, not just chasing a big project because, it's 20,000 or 30,000 or, oh my gosh, it's the biggest job I've ever done. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, let's make sure this still fits your model and what you're doing and is going to move your business forward.
Yep. That's a good take. And if you don't have the team that's prepared to do it, what might end up happening is the owner and you might be pulled onto that job. And then all of a sudden you've lost 2 weeks of working on the business because you're on this project that's a little too complex for your current team.
Right.
And that would be a net negative for the business because you wouldn't be working on the business. You'd just be producing at, $80 an hour or whatever.
Opportunity costs when you could be out doing sales and drumming up new business.
Yeah. Yeah. Personally, we were about 80% residential, 20% commercial repaint. But we found a couple of small niches in commercial repaint that really fit our model that our guys are really good at. One of them was farms and barns. So we had
That's like so borderline. Is it commercial? Is it residential? A barn's
man, you
just a
see
big
some of
house.
these big barns, like it's technically commercial because it's a business, right? A farm is a business.
Yeah, agriculture.
And these barns, like chicken coops that are 100 feet long and or a couple 100 feet long, and like these big 3-story barns and just full scrape, full like pressure wash, then full spray 2 coats of linseed oil or that red barn stain and white trim. So we got really good at that, and we produced a ton of barns, but we're really good at it. But there's also some projects that we took on that we weren't really good at. Like we took on this one railing project where we painted all the railings on this like 24-story apartment building. And we made out okay on it, but my guys hated it. They didn't like it. They were just like grinding rust off of railings for 3 weeks. And
right. And you're like, hey guys, we have work. And they're like, I'd rather not, boss.
Yeah. They're just like sitting down, crunched over, grinding, cleaning with xylene, and then using all these like metal primers and stuff. And they didn't love that.
Exactly. Yeah. We did an interior on a giant condo building one time where it was like all the hallways and the fire doors and all this stuff, but we had to like redo the texture, and it was like beyond our real capabilities and just became this giant nightmare. And the guys had work through the winter, mostly an exterior crew that got to do some interior work, but at the end everyone was just happy to be done and not really happy. They were like, I would have rather taken the time off. I'm like, okay, I mean, you got to pay your bills still, but I get where you're coming from. Yeah. So if someone wants to do commercial and they find a good niche, or they have a good connection, like some commercial property manager that they're related to that's feeding them juicy jobs, that can be really worth it. But I wouldn't pin your hopes of like, I'm going to double my revenue because I'm going to start doing all this commercial. That I think can be a short-sighted mistake.
Yeah, if you're producing like 40, 50K plus per month in residential, then I would recommend starting some outreach to property managers and realtors. Like those 5 calls a day we talked about, make those 5 calls to property managers every day. 5 calls, try to set up a meeting or 2 a week. That would be a really good in if you can do that. But even I talked to a general contractor the other day, and he was like, he explained his process on how he lets new contractors into his world. And it's like
onto the roster.
Not easy. Not easy. He needs to know that you've done work like that in the past. But that doesn't mean it's not possible. Just know that that's, I think, a really good example of like, luck is when hard work meets preparation. So you do kind of need a lucky break when you're going into commercial. You need someone to give you a chance.
Yep. Someone to be like, hey, you can paint our church. We trust you.
Then document it. Take lots of pictures.
Definitely. Yeah, because whatever that first one is, you need to use that in your next one, right? You can show people, and ideally, you do such a good job that the owners or the managers are willing to even do like a referral call when you have another prospect who's looking at doing a big project with you. You can be like, hey, call Bob's Farm down the road. We did 3 giant barns for them. They're really happy, and these are huge projects, actually even bigger than yours. Give him a call, ask him what it was like to work with us.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get that first one, you do a good job. You can catapult in, but I just keep your residential. The residential is the bread and butter for a lot of guys. Don't mess with your bread and butter. Keep the bread and butter moving, and then you can add in the other stuff over time.
Exactly. 100%. And then Daniel's third question, how can I better prepare for the inevitable slow periods in the painting business? You want to tackle that first?
Sure.
Or I want to hear your take on that.
Yeah, I mean, so what we're talking about is winter, right? And really what we're really specifically talking about is that terrible time between mid-November and New Year's when no one wants to do anything, even interior, right? And so what's really important, if you can, we just talked about commercial or big projects, right? If you can line up a big project to have your guys do at that time, that's great. If you're not doing interior paint, and you're in painter growth, like really, ask for some help, get some resources. Like, let's get you going on interior paint, because that's the natural. Like, I do exteriors in the summer, I do interiors in the winter, right? It's just the holiday season that's the hardest part. So I would try to plan big projects or inconvenient projects during that time, right? Some, some person who works overnights or wants you to work late into the evening or whatever like that time of year. Well, I also personally, when I was running my painting business, I always did my end of the year bonuses at kind of end of November, beginning of December timeframe. So, if we didn't have any work or work was kind of slow, right? Then, at least they have a bonus in their pocket.
Yeah. So I'm going to go in a slightly different direction. I think all of that's totally reasonable. The way that I think about this is when I think about preparing, I want to prepare both my workload and my team. So I want to figure out throughout the year, what's my base load team? What's my core team of painters that I want to keep on staff all year round? How many is that? And what do we need for a baseline amount of production? So if it's 3 painters, say we want 40K a month, right? Maybe a little bit less than that, maybe 35K a month. So this is our baseline from our crew of 3. And I need to book this 35K every single month to keep these 3 busy. Now we naturally get busier in the winter. Or in the summer. So what do we do in the summer? We either can hire on like temporary employees with the expectation they're only going to be working until September, October, or we can swell up our production capabilities with subs, right? I didn't love laying off painters. Some guys I brought on telling them that it was a short-term contract and they were fine with that. But I don't like telling someone they're going to be full-time knowing that I'm going to lay them off in 4 months.
Sure.
So figure out where you want that to be and then plan it accordingly. Book like crazy in the summer, right? Like you said. But I think the big thing is you want your marketing eventually to be set up as a machine where you can have input in, and like output out. You put in a certain amount of, time, money, energy, and more or less what the output is going to be in terms of bookings. And if you can kind of create that calculation in your business and figure out what that input is going to be, then you should be able to reliably stay busy, year round, even when it is super slow.
Yeah, I mean, we can do interior, right? The only time I'm talking about is that holiday season when people just don't want you in the house anyway. But, the other thing that I was really bad, I'll confess, I was terrible early in my career, like 21, 22, 23 years old. I was terrible about saving money in the summertime. Like obviously I learned over time how to smooth out the edges and have more interior going in the winter and doing all that. But when I first started, I was like 95% exterior and 5% interior. And I'd have all this money in the summer and I would spend it thinking I was cool, big baller, bought these things, not thinking about the fact that I didn't have any way to make money in the wintertime. And then I'd be eating ramen noodles, and bananas for 3 months, waiting until the spring production started again. So, it can be a bit of a boom and a bust, right? And a mature, responsible adult is going to put some away during the summer, like into a specific savings account, like the winter savings account, and have that cash on hand too. Just a lesson I learned the hard way a few years back.
After my first season of painting, I didn't save any money for taxes, and then I had like a $20,000 tax bill. That was brutal.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So like you learn these lessons, right? You got to save your taxes and you got to save for the winter. Like just take it from people who've screwed it up. Don't make that mistake yourself. Save some money in the summer when you're thinking, oh, I got 10 grand. I'm going to go put down a down payment on a boat. Like maybe before the boat, you should put the 10 grand in a savings. And if you get another 10 grand, then you can put the down payment on the boat.
Yeah. This comes down, I mean, the big thing here is like financial literacy is not a frequently talked about topic. And, you know, we talk a lot about sales and marketing and recruiting and leadership and all these sexy topics. But like getting money is one thing, keeping money is another. And you need to know when's your money coming in, what's your cash flow cycle, what are your projections, how much cash are you expected to bring in each month, where does that put your cash balance, what's your reserves, how much runway do you have, and use those types of metrics to make decisions, not just what do I have in my checking account today? Do I feel rich?
Call it paint or rich. You think you just got a big final payment on a job, you got 20 grand in your business account, and you think you have all this money, but do you actually? Are you sure?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about I just did a financial podcast episode the other day. So I talked about like your balance sheet, your profit and loss, same with cash flows. But you know, your balance sheet is so important when it comes to that. What are your liabilities? What are your assets? What's your accounts receivable? What's your accounts payable? And if you don't know those, then you don't know really where your business is at.
And to tie that in full circle on the question of the slow period, like let's say you're doing a good job, you're mostly not slow, but there's going to be a slower period. If you know exactly what your monthly costs are, you know exactly what your payroll is, you know how much you have to pay for your internet and your cell phone, this and that, it makes it easier to find that motivation to make sure you book enough work to at least cover that minimum. If you're like, in the summertime, I'm doing 40 to 60K a week at least, or a month, whatever, a week would be nuts. In a month, in production, maybe in the summer or in the wintertime, it drops down to 20 to 30, right? But I know at least if I get that 30K a month, even in November, December, then I'll be okay to cover all my bills and my expenses because I know what they are. Right? So many business owners are like, I hope the bills get paid. Maybe, right? And that's what you're talking about is know the numbers, plan for the numbers.
Yeah. Like this is probably about 4 or 5 years ago, I had this realization in my business. And before this realization, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this. Whenever a bill would come in, I wouldn't pay it right away because I would hope that it would go away, or how bad it feels to pay a big bill that you weren't expecting. But that's because I didn't have a fundamental understanding of my accounts receivable and accounts payable and my financial position after those credits and debits. So once I became more financially savvy and started understanding my numbers and knowing that, okay, even after I pay every single bill that is coming in and all of the money leaves my account, I still know how much money I'm going to have left over. Then it becomes a lot easier to pay those bills.
You're like, sure, $1,000 to Sherwin-Williams, done, no problem. Who cares?
Yeah,
still got all this money in my account.
Yeah, exactly. But that comes from knowing your financial position. And if you don't know it, you can't make decisions based on that. And you act in fear, you spend with fear, and you end up broke.
And I'm going to tie it back into something else you said earlier about marketing, 5 calls a day, right? If you need to make big progress on your financials and figuring out where you are in your financials, 10 to 20 minutes a day.
Yeah.
At least do a little bit every day. Catch up.
Yeah. Or even 2 to 3 days a week. Like legit. Like it's every day would be ideal.
Yeah, I mean every day might be a little bit tough, right? But yeah, 2, 3, 4 days a week, block out a little bit of time, just do a little bit of it. It's almost end of July. Guess what? You're not going to do all your receipts for the year through now in one afternoon. I'm sorry, whoever hasn't done their receipts yet, but you're not going to get it all done at once. So just start and do a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Know your financial position so that when it does come to the slow period, you know how much money you have, you know what your runway is. So when I say runway, what the definition of a runway is based on the amount of money that you have left in your bank, your retained earnings, your cash and cash equivalents, your investments. How many months can your business operate without generating any more money? So if your monthly overhead is 20K and you have 60K saved in the bank, you have a 3-month runway. And anything above 3 months is considered pretty good. So
yeah, that's right. If you could cover all your expenses and your payroll for 3 months.
Yeah.
Because you need to cover your payroll because you need you guys to keep working for your business to stay solvent.
Yep.
Because we're business owners. Yes, we run painting businesses, but we are not the painters mostly.
100%. Some of us happen to paint.
Right. I had to
But
paint my house last summer. It's a long story.
cool. Let's do one more question.
Sounds
That
good,
was a good
brother.
one. Daniel, I hope that was helpful, man. See you on the next call. Hey there, Brush Busters. Reaching out today, feeling pretty discouraged. Recently lost out on a huge project, and it's been a real blow to my morale. I know setbacks are part of any business, but this one really stings. I poured a lot of time and effort into the proposal, and I thought I had a good shot. All of that to lose against a cheaper quote. Have you ever dealt with losing out on a big job? Is there anything I can do to analyze what went wrong with this bid? Maybe there's areas that I can improve for the next opportunity. Any advice you can offer would be greatly appreciated. And that's from Josh. That stings for sure. I've been there.
Especially when you think you're going to land it. You made me go first last time.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, first thing is, there's no, in business, there's no like great white buffalo. You never want to put all your eggs in one basket. And to be disappointed means that you were tied to the outcome and not tied to the process. And it's really hard to do this. And I still do this to this day. But to really be even keel and steady Eddie and like less emotional in business, you want to be tied to the process. Are you doing your absolute best every single step of the way? And just be confident that if you do that, the outcome will follow. The ideal outcome will follow. And if you're tied to the outcome, then you're going to be disappointed. And that's just part of the business.
Yeah, I mean, I played this really boring sport for a long time called baseball. Right? And in baseball, the best hitters, the absolute best hitters, bat like 300, 350. That means like 30 out of 100 or 35 out of 100 they actually hit, right? So the best hitters, the absolute best hitters in baseball, right? Professional.
That's third.
Exactly. And there's a whole bunch they miss. Strike out, pop out, fly out, whatever. It's going to be the same thing in sales. Like we can get into the tactics and we can get over it and all that, but like what you're talking about with the process, like being in love with the process, not in love with the result, right? You got to know it sucks, right? It really sucks, man. Even to this day, there's some I think I'm going to get and I don't get them. And I'm like, how did that happen? I thought I was going to get that one, right? But like, you got to know, even if you're one of the best, even if you are the best, there's going to be some number of them you're not going to land. So let's start there, right? Like mentality wise, you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. I know it stings, but like, it's almost like I love sports. I'm going to do another sports now. Like if you have a turnover, whatever sport you're playing, hockey, I know you guys in Canada, big hockey heads, I get it. American football, soccer, whatever. Like when you turn the ball over, right? You're like, oh no, I turned the ball over. Like, do you have time just like stand there and cry about it? Or do you have to like get back on defense, right? It's like, all right, it's over. It's done. It's gone. You can't fix it now. You can maybe learn from it, review later, but like it's done. Now get back on defense and keep playing hard.
I think probably the best way to deal with that is to make that one of the 100 bids that you have out, right? And just like beat them with volume. So how did you get that bid? Who was it through? How can you get 10 more of those relationships to send you those types of big bids? And do the activities required to get those relationships.
Sure. Yeah. That'll make you feel a lot better. If that's the one big bid you have all year and all the other jobs you have are in a smaller bracket and they're all kind of clustered together, and that was the one big one, that's going to be a lot more devastating than, well, I did 20 big estimates this year and I landed 5 of them. And that was one of the 15 I didn't land. I mean, 25% is still not that great, right? But at least you've done it, but it's not the only one.
Well, I mean, 25% of commercial work it sounds like this is a commercial job, but 25% of commercial work is pretty good.
Sure.
And then you can ask yourself, like, How did you feel about the relationship? Did you have a good relationship? What was your presentation like? Did you ask them what was important? Did you ask them to see the other quotes? Like, do you feel like could you have taken this person out for like lunch? And would that have felt comfortable, or did you not even know who the decision maker was? Was it decided by a board? Was it a lot of the times these big jobs are decided by a board where literally they're just looking at the price.
Right. And did you get to that board meeting?
Yeah.
That's a big one for anyone who's trying to pitch HOA work, right? Like, did you go to the board meeting where they discussed the painting bids? Were you the one painter who showed up and actually pitched and answered questions and was there? Or were you one of the 3 painters that emailed a bid and waited for the board to tell you?
So we had a client, this is really funny. Last summer, we had a client there down in North Carolina. And right when they joined, husband and wife, they were working on this big proposal, kind of similar to this. And it was decided by an HOA, and what it was a private gated townhouse complex or gated community, or like all these like stucco homes that they were bidding on to paint. And she was talking to me. She's like, how do I do this? How do I win this big project? I'm like, so talk me through it. Okay, so there's a board, and then the homeowners have a little bit of say because they're splitting the costs, and basically I was like, get to the board meeting and then introduce yourself to every person in that unit, in that area. And so she did it. So she went to the board meeting, she asked them what was important, what wasn't important, all of that. And then I got her to go knock on they have a $1 million plus a year business. She still went and she knocked on these houses. Hi, I'm Michelle with Blank Painting. We submitted a proposal to paint your guys' properties. Jack and Diana are already going ahead with us. Would you like to go ahead with the proposal too? And
Nice.
just closed everyone. And I'm not even kidding. She booked $110,000 that week. I think she might have done every single unit after that little conversation that we had.
Right. Yeah. So it's like sales is about trust, and big sales are about big trust. So if you didn't land a big sale, look back critically and honestly about why did they trust the other person more than you?
Mm-hmm. And it's not always about price, right? If some people, they say they're looking for the cheapest price, what people are really looking for is the highest value.
Best value. Yep.
Yeah. So the value is where your value proposition intersects with price. So if someone goes in, you say, I'm bidding on the lowest price or going to take the lowest price, but they come in and their scope of work isn't the same and they have it written on the back of a napkin. Like, are we really talking about comparing apples to apples here?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and you can get into some tactics, right? Like whether this organization or this person already decided or not. I would always want to find out, like, oh, what was the deciding factor? What did they include? Did I include? What was the price, etc. Right? It really sucks to be like, oh well, your price was lower, but we went with them because we felt that they were more experienced, or they felt like they were going to take better care of us, or it's like, oh man. But so that could be another thing too. If you really want to know, you really want to get better, right? If you really want to get better, I always ask every no, what was the deciding factor? Why did you decide to choose? That's fine. Good luck with your project. Appreciate your time. Super professional. Thanks for letting me know. So I don't have to call you for the next 3 months hoping. Right. But like, what was the deciding factor? Why? Yeah. Just so I know for my own learning. And then, they'll usually tell you, oh, it was this, or oh, it was that, or oh, you didn't catch this. Or, man, I had one time I was so mad. He's like, yeah, this guy figured out that this house had been solid stained before, not painted. And he brought it to us. And I was like, oh, I can do solid stain. Wait. But it was like already too late, right? So I've never missed a solid stain opportunity since then. I'll tell you that much. So, just I would ask that question, who asked this? It was Josh,
Yeah,
Josh in Nashville. Josh, if you really want to get better, I would ask them why, like what, not like attacking or accusing or like, well, why didn't you pick me? It's like, hey, cool. Understand. Just so I know, what was the deciding factor?
Yeah, 100%. Need that feedback. And people are pretty, assuming if you put in this much time and effort, I hopefully have some sort of relationship with the decision maker or the person you think is the decision maker.
Mm-hmm.
Just give them a shout and ask.
Or the messenger for the decision maker. I mean, someone, right? To tell you something.
Exactly. Now we got a couple more questions, but I think they're gonna have to wait until next week because that was good. That was a good discussion. I could keep going all day, man, but
Okay, I can't wait for the next time.
we gotta
Have me
let.
on
we
again,
gotta-
man. I love this.
I will, 100%. Now that you're on the team, we're gonna get you in here and get the people what they need, which is
I am super
more
excited to
brush
get started. Obviously, you and I have been interacting for a long time, kind of been circling this. Now that I'm joining the team, and I'm ready to go.
Awesome. Stoked to bring your experience on board. And if anyone wants to submit their questions to Brushbusters, you know what to do. support@paintergrowth.com or hit us up in the Q&A below the video. All right, guys. Have a great day.
Have a good one, everybody. We need like an outro song. Brush Busters. Who are you gonna call?
hang on.
Brush Busters.
When your leads are low
You heard this one?
and your sales are slow.
Oh no.
Who you gonna call? Brushbuster.
There we go. Right.
Scaling up the game. Big projects, friend.